Your brain cannot tell the difference between a broken bone and being left out. Both activate the same alarm. Both register as damage. It turns out the thing we call hurt feelings may not be a figure of speech at all. When the people you reached for turn away, something fires inside your skull, and it isn't a mood, and it isn't weakness. It's the same circuitry that screams when you touch a stove. Which raises a strange question. If your body treats being alone as an injury, why would anyone ever choose it? Here's what most people believe about loneliness. They believe it's emotional, soft, a bad mood with good lighting. You feel disconnected, a little sad, maybe a little dramatic about it, and the fix is obvious. Get out more. Be less sensitive. Stop taking everything so personally. That's the story Chloe has been told her whole life, and it's the story she tells herself. I'm fine. I'm just tired. I'm just not in the mood tonight. The voice in her head is calm and reasonable, and underneath the calm, something is quietly fastening itself shut. A clasp closing. A latch she didn't decide to pull. She would call it being independent. She would call it not needing much. And on the surface, the story holds. Loneliness feels like an emotion. It arrives like sadness. It lingers like sadness. It answers to the same vocabulary. So we file it next to disappointment and bad weather. Unpleasant, temporary, basically harmless. But this is only the beginning of what's actually happening. Picture this. You're lying inside a scanner, a narrow tube, machinery humming around your head. On a screen above you, there's a game. Two other players tossing a ball back and forth, and you're one of them. You catch it, you throw it back. Simple. Pleasant even. Then the ball stops coming to you. The other two keep playing, back and forth, as if you've quietly stopped existing. You wait. You keep waiting. And something happens in your chest that has no business happening over a cartoon ball. A tightening. A small, real drop of distress. And here's what the scan shows. The exact instant you realize you've been left out, two regions of the brain light up, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insular. And those are not emotion centers. Those are the regions that process the raw, physical distress of bodily pain, the ache of a burn, the wrongness of an injury. This is the experiment researchers built, a game cold-bloodedly called Cyberball, and what it revealed has a name: the overlap between social pain and physical pain, the idea that rejection and bodily injury rely on shared neural machinery. Your brain didn't build a separate alarm for loneliness. Because human infants survive only through connection, the social attachment system appears to have co-opted the existing pain system, borrowing the pain signal to keep us from drifting away from the people we need. So when Chloe stands half a step outside the group and feels something close like a fist in her chest, that isn't her being dramatic. Her brain is running an injury report. To her nervous system, the gap between her and those people is not a feeling. It's a wound. And it gets stranger. In one study, when people took acetaminophen, ordinary Tylenol, over several weeks, they reported fewer hurt feelings day to day and showed measurably less activity in those same pain regions when they were excluded. A painkiller for a heartache, working on the literal pain pathway because to the brain there was never a meaningful difference. Except this is also not the full picture. Because if loneliness is an alarm, a pain signal warning you that you're drifting from safety, then the obvious move is to go back toward people, to close the gap. That's what the alarm is for. Chloe does the opposite. And she has reasons. Good ones, the kind you can defend out loud. She's busy. She's protecting her energy. She's not going to chase people who wouldn't notice if she vanished. Every reason points the same direction. Away. And underneath all of them, that quiet sound again. The latch, the clasp. Something closing over her, like a shell. Here's the mechanism nobody warns you about. Chronic loneliness makes the brain hypervigilant. It starts reading threat into neutral faces, hostility into expressions that mean nothing. A glance becomes a verdict. A slow reply becomes proof. The alarm that was meant to pull you toward people starts convincing you that everyone is about to hurt you. So you flinch first. And the painful twist, the natural soothing system, the one that uses closeness and warmth to quiet stress, needs connection to function. Cut off the connection, and you cut off the thing that calms the alarm. So the alarm just keeps ringing, louder, in an emptier room. This is the part that should ruin you a little. The wall Chloe built to keep the wound from happening is the wound happening. Slowly, on a schedule she set herself, because a pain you inflict on yourself, on your own timeline, is the only kind that feels like it's under control. And look, the brain is a magnificent piece of engineering, but it has the emotional regulation of a smoke detector that goes off when you make toast. As far as your ancient pain circuitry is concerned, being left on read in a group chat is not a minor social hiccup. It is a 5-alarm, life or death catastrophe, indistinguishable from being abandoned by your entire tribe in the dark. The trouble is, it doesn't feel like a malfunction. It feels like wisdom. It feels like, I knew better than to get close. That's the genius of the armor. It disguises itself as the lesson you learned. So here's the question, the one that's been forming under everything. Does this mean you are just building the cell yourself? Sit with that for a moment. Not the people who left, not the ones who didn't text back. You. The armor isn't protecting you from the loneliness. The armor is the loneliness, brick by brick, in your own hands. And the worst part isn't being alone. The worst part is how much it has started to feel like home. Chloe doesn't tear down the wall. Walls that took years to build don't come down in an evening, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. She just doesn't send the lie this time. She doesn't replace it with anything brave either. She doesn't type yes, doesn't promise to come, doesn't fling the door open. She just leaves the message unsent and the question unanswered, a small refusal to add one more brick. The latch in her chest doesn't open, but for once, she notices it closing. She feels the armor putting itself on, and instead of calling it wisdom, she just watches it happen. That's the whole move, not a breakthrough, not a hug in the rain, just one moment of seeing the mechanism as a mechanism, the alarm as an alarm, instead of as the truth. The wound is still there. The wall is still there. She's just standing a half step closer to the door than she was an hour ago, and she hasn't decided yet what that means. If your brain has spent years treating isolation as injury, what does it mean that you've learned to call it comfortable?